Friday.
Yes.
So following the TDAC process, we had follow-up. So that includes summarizing the interaction, delivering on the expectations, and then starting that process up before your next call. So for one, the summarizing the interaction, this is really key in listening to the client, their issues that they have, things that they're having trouble with, and then things that you can improve on so those things don't happen before. And then going down to delivering on expectations. This is really just being accountable and then ownership. So the difference there is being accountable, you are taking the initiative, you're listening to them, and then taking the ownership is actually following through with those things that they need to be done. So one example, the ownership is updating the DFF, whereas the accountability is making sure that the changes were made. And if not, then you open up a case in the digital fulfillment. So we're going to go through and then give some tips that we have found beneficial that you guys also might find beneficial. So to start out, we have Aaron, who is also our featured AC of the day. So,
good morning. One thing as an IM that I've felt as far as follow-up, letting the customer know after I've done the onboarding, because it lasts so long, and it can be 30, 40, 50 minutes sometimes, I let them know our next call will only be about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So I hope that I get a better response when they pick up the next time, knowing, oh gosh, this isn't going to be another hour. So that's been helpful to me. And then one thing, just a reminder of what Jenna had mentioned yesterday that she said had really helped change her organization. And I actually had been doing this for a while too. Follow up for our own selves, being organized, listing, making the bullet points and copy and pasting the email in your notes. That just serves again as when you open it up, just a really fresh reminder of, yes, this is what we talked about. So for my featured AC presentation, I just had the question of, what are some best tips that I have picked up from all of these talks? So I had mentioned this to Brittany too, how common sense this had seemed to me, but I'd never thought about it before. Brittany had said that she always makes sure that the client hangs up before she does. And that was like an aha moment for me, and I realized how rushed I probably had made people feel when it's kind of, okay, bye, because you're so much in a hurry and it's such a small detail. So I've been really focusing on making sure they hang up first and they're not feeling like I'm really excited to get off because I'm so busy. And also, Larry had talked a lot about his listening skills, and I sat by him for a while, and I really did notice he did that a lot. He was, yes, just letting them get it out, and I've been trying to improve very much with that. Sometimes the customers may start talking over me, and then I'll just let them, whatever they have to say, I'll just stop. I listened to a call in the call coaching last week, and I noticed I did do that. Whenever they started to talk over me, I just let them say whatever they needed to do and just let them get it out. Even if I knew they were wrong or they were going in the wrong direction, just give them that space of being heard. A few success stories, maybe kind of all wrapped up in one. Since I started in July, I feel now I've kind of more noticing the results of some of these things. I've been working with people for a while and transitioning them on. So over the past week, actually, I have gotten a lot of positive emails back just saying, thank you so much for what you've done. A couple of those, and I actually even had a woman say, can I have the address, to your work? I want to send you something. So that was really nice to finally feel that come back. And, although that's not an upsell or anything yet like that, it was just a reminder I really have, with my efforts, made an impact on these people. So that was a success for me. And going on to Jonah, his tips for the follow-up.
Excellent. So what I wanted to touch on was sort of guidelines for interactions after the call you may have made yesterday or sometime this week when writing, as Aaron and Clayton had both touched on a little bit, a follow-up email or maybe even making a follow-up call. We found that staying concise is really important. Sometimes less can be more. Anybody who's busy trying to run a business really doesn't need paragraphs upon paragraphs of information. It tends to be overloading. So staying concise we found was really important. Bullet point listing, like you mentioned, really tends to help with sort of breaking things down and to making things a little more organized, which is always important. And on that note, letting them know exactly what will happen on the next call. So when you just say, oh, well, I'll reach back out to you in 2 weeks, in a month, in 90 days even, they're going to, like we've touched on before, that tends to leave a feeling of, oh, is that going to be another hour call? Because I don't know. But if you let them know, say, well, we're going to follow up on this, we're going to touch up on some of the things that we had mentioned on our previous call, should take about X amount of time. That tends to really kind of put them at ease. Okay, I don't have to take a whole day off work to talk to you, essentially. And on that note as well, letting them know exactly what they need to do, because if you call them back, say you need more information for their dashboard, for whatever program they may have, and you call them back in a month and they still don't have it, the last thing you want to hear from them is, oh, well, I didn't know I needed that. So really hammering that home in an email or a call really tends to make sure that the next call is going to be a productive one. And with that, I'm going to pass it to
me.
Clayton, I believe.
So with taking action after the call, making sure that you take good notes and good homework. I'm a little weird. I like to take notes as well and write them down. So then if I have to have something done, it's very satisfying whenever I get that thing complete. I can cross it off and then I can throw away that sticky note or whatever you may do there. And then also CCing yourself in the emails for follow-up and then placing those emails in a separate folder. Maybe you have everything separated in your folders alphabetically, or maybe you make a folder for each client, but taking those emails and dragging those over into the folder. That way, moving forward, if there's ever an issue, you can go right to that folder and find the notes very quickly.
So one of my tips for the follow-up was, I think I've mentioned this before, is I like to be really thorough with my account notes section and then the digital service case. So I like to put in the account notes section the date, and then if I left a message, who I left it with, left a voicemail, sent email. It's kind of the abbreviated version of the whole call, because I know when I like to go back, I'm like, when was the last time I talked to this person? I can see it was like yesterday or a month ago. So that's kind of a nice shortcut way, and then I obviously put more detail in the digital service case. And I do notice sometimes when I get accounts transferred over, there'll be a left message, but there'll be no detail in the digital service case. So I'm like, ooh, did they talk to the secretary, or did they talk to the actual client, or was there something I needed to know about? So even though it takes an additional, 15, 20 seconds to type it up, I think it's worth it in the long run. So when you check back, you can see every detail, like, oh, he was running off the phone because he had water in his basement. Or, there's always something extra that you can put in there and then refer back to it the next time you talk to them. So I always think that's helpful to put extra notes in there.
And last but not least, not only following up with the client, but kind of wrapping that up by following up with any sales, any vendors, or digital support. It's one thing to tell the client you're going to follow up with sales and support, but it's another thing to actually do that. So make sure that you guys are actually following up with them. If there's any sort of escalations with vendors, make sure you're getting that done. And typically I try to reach out to the vendor or sales first before I send that follow-up email to the client to let them know, hey, I'm working on this with sales. I'll give you an update as soon as I have an answer for you. And I think that's all of our tips. Jonah is going to ask some questions about everything we discussed today.
All right. And since it is Friday and the weekend's coming up, we have the great energy giver of sugar. And if you get a question right, you will get some candy. So, first question we have is, what is one tip we mentioned today? Somebody, anybody?
Letting the client hang up first.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Sorry, I thought you just got it. Raise your hand. Never mind.
Did anybody bring a helmet?
Safety glasses? Safety glasses, yeah.
Here's one. What is one tip we did not mention today? Somebody, anybody?
That might be something you guys do differently.
To be on your cell phone while the call is going on. I mean, it's not a tip, but it's not something you mentioned.
True. Good.
Excellent.
Anthony, did you want to raise your hand on that too?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. We can do multiple answers for each one. If anybody else has. Okay. What is the difference between taking ownership and being accountable?
Taking ownership is doing the thing, so like you mentioned, doing the DFF, accountability is making sure when that is sent to you as done, it is actually done.
That's it.
I guess people can choose their own thing. I was supposed to throw it, but I don't think that's a good idea.
Next time we need to get like Sour Patch Kids, something a little softer. What is an example of ownership and the accountabilities that come with it? So kind of going off that last question.
So if you have a website and you say you're going to make changes on the website, and you say you're going to make changes, but actually you take the ownership to go through with it and make those changes.
Excellent. Anybody? And finally, give an example of a real life experience where you had a good or bad follow-up scenario.
I had one where I emailed them saying, hey, as a reminder, you need to give your Google verification code. And then she actually emailed me back saying, hey, I got this, I'm going to give you a call. So there was a lot of communication with the follow-up too, because I told her, here's what we're going to do, make sure you do it. So she actually followed back up with me.
Great, great. All right. That's
So we do our contest for the day. Aaron and the challenge JC are doing
Demonstrating good listening skills. I guess with your Lowry listening skills.
Your Lowry listening?
Yes. So just giving people the chance to be heard.
There's a name for it now,
Yes,
Lowry.
the Lowry listening skills. Kenzie.
Aww.
Alright.